break time. It's a beautiful sunny day in Rochester in December, which I know it's unbelievable. And I'm here today with Brian Stancampiano to talk about the client experience. There's been a lot of information lately and a lot of research that I have seen about the client experience. And even Ann Mulcahy has told us as Xerox employees that we need to be aware of client experience, make it the best thing possible, and to make every connection count. So Brian, what is all the fuss about client experience?
Just a few years ago, innovation and products were the primary source of brand differentiation. Now, the product boom has passed. The research has found that companies that differentiate themselves with a superior customer experience are indeed rewarded with up to a 10x improvement in market cap.
Wow.
That's
so
the good news.
Yeah, Xerox could use something like that, and given our transition from product to services, it obviously would be more important.
No question, very important. The bad news, however, is very few companies do this well, this customer experience thing, to those companies' customers, and only 8% of those customers said they were actually receiving a superior customer experience.
Oh, interesting.
Very interesting, and a problem that we cannot afford to not know how our customers feel. As you might imagine, customers interact with many parts of our organization: sales, service, administration, Xerox.com. So it's very important that we take all of their touch points into account in measuring their customer experience. Jeff Bezos from Amazon.com was quoted as saying, in the physical world, if he angers a customer, that customer is going to tell maybe 5 people. However, in the wired world, that unhappy customer will very quickly tell 5,000 people.
Oh, so then like the blogging and MySpace and other social networking avenues really provide a way for clients to get out the message about whether we do a good job or not. So given that, how do we know from a Xerox perspective if we are doing a good job with client experience?
Well, historically, we've issued surveys and we ask customers, are they satisfied? As it turns out, we found out that's not real reliable, because the customers that left us, 60 to 80% of the customers that left us, prior to leaving us, actually said they were satisfied or very satisfied. The best way to measure customer experience is to determine if your customers are willing to recommend you to a friend or colleague. Has anyone ever asked you to recommend an electrician or a painter, perhaps?
Yeah, sure. You know, actually, we had some work done on our house this past year, and we had some new windows put in, and we had a roof put on. And the contractor that we hired to do the windows was always late on a job. It took him longer to get it done, and he actually put in the wrong windows in a couple of different places. So we were very displeased. And when people asked us, you know, how do we feel about this contractor, we told them that, you know, I would never recommend this guy Rich. It just didn't work for us.
Now, how about, have you had a positive experience?
At the same time we were having the roof put on, in contrast, actually, the roofer was on time, took him a couple days to get the job done. He worked straight through, picked up everything. There's no debris or anything left in the lawn. He did a great job. So when the neighbors came around and said, hey, how do you feel about the guy that did your roof? We were more than happy to recommend John, to say, hey, this guy did a great job, and you're going to love him.
So, Lynette, those are two very good examples. And in the net promoter terminology, if you will, Rich, the window guy, you're clearly a detractor of Rich and that window company.
Okay.
On the other hand, you were very satisfied with John and the roofing company, and therefore you're a promoter of John. There's a third category called passives. Had you struggled to come up with a recommendation, you would have been a passive of both of those companies. So by having these customers segmented, there's a methodology called Net Promoter Score, which essentially compares the percentage of the customers that are promoters, willing to recommend, against the percentage of the customers that are detractors, not willing to recommend, and comes up with a score. Companies that have superior Net Promoter Scores also have superior loyalty, superior revenue growth.
Okay.
Needless to say, it's transforming the way organizations capture and measure customer experience data. We at Xerox are also transforming the way we're gathering our voice of the customer and deploying our Net Promoter methodology throughout our survey mechanisms.
All right, Brian, but so I know who's a promoter and I know who's a detractor. What are we going to do with that information?
Well, Lynette, if we know how our customers feel, we can react accordingly. Ultimately, we're trying to grow the number of promoters, convert the passives, and recover the detractors. As an example, MapInfo, a Pitney Bowes company, found out that revenue associated with promoters was 3.7x that of revenue associated with detractors. So clearly, there's a very significant payback here associated with growing the promoter base.
So what can the average employee do to actually improve the client experience? And where would I go to get more information?
So I would say two things. Number one, we got to survey the right mix of customers. And number two, we got to make every connection matter at all those touch points. In terms of surveying the right customers, for our field leaders, it's very important that we identify the right mix of customers and submit that contact information to our customer experience website. For all the rest of us, we tend to underestimate the actual impact we can have on the customer experience. And I would highly recommend that we all view a short video on the simple truths of service. It actually tells a story about Johnny the bagger, a supermarket employee who didn't believe he could have any impact on the customer experience. As it turned out, however, Johnny's actions completely transformed the entire culture of this organization by having a dramatic experience on those customers. Both of those links and references can be found on the Break Time website.